everyone, it's Jackie and I'm back today with some baking tips and tricks and instructions today. So today we're going to go over a lot of different baking tools, what they do and how you use them, and then you guys can leave in the comments below different things you'd like to bake. I would like to see a video of how to bake, whether it's like cinnamon rolls, cookies, cake. Leave any general idea and then I will pick a recipe that I love to make. Personally, I love making cinnamon rolls and cookies, but anything you guys think of that you think you want to learn how to bake, if you leave it down there, even if I don't know how to bake it yet, I can Pinterest it, figure it out, and make a video for you. So leave the things you think you want to learn, and today we are going to go over some baking things. So let's get started. So first things first, I'm going to go over just some pan thingies. So this right here is called a cooling rack. Mine are stackable, that's why it has the little legs, but most of them just sit at like a height, like about this high from the counter. And when you make cookies that you cut out or cupcakes, if you take them out of the cupcake tin, you put them on the cooling rack so they can cool down to room temperature to be able to add frosting on. A cooling rack also comes in handy if you are dyeing Easter eggs. We always dye our Easter eggs, and then after it's like in the dye, we sit them on here so then they can dry without the bottoms touching the newspaper and the bottoms taking longer to dry. So that's another good handy tip to use a cooling rack for. After the cooling rack, we have, I think most of you guys know what this is, but muffin tins or cupcake tins. I use these whenever I make muffins. I have them in 3 different sizes, so this is just your standard muffin tin. You can also get them in a large muffin tin that will make bigger muffins, or you can get them in mini muffin tins. Those are my least favorite to use, but I do still have them I still like to use. After a muffin tin, we have the standard cake pan. This is a 9x13 cake pan that you just use to make cake, or also I use this to make like when cooking different casseroles and stuff in the oven. So the next I have a cookie sheet. So this is a cookie sheet that I just use when I make cookies. I either roll it out with the rolling pin and then cut it and then put the cookies on it, or I just put balls of cookie dough on it. So these are all different type of baking pans and tins that you can use to bake your cake. There's a lot of other ones too. If you're baking like a bundt cake, you'll use a pan for that. You can use a springform pan if you're making a cheesecake. There's lots of different pans to use when baking, and there's a lot of different name brands out there and really cool things. I just have the simplest ones. I think I got my muffin tins from Dollar General and my cake pan and cookie sheets from Target. So, but these are some pans and tins you can use when baking. Now we're going to look at some different tools you might have to use. Okay, the first tool I have for you today, you might already know what it is, but it's a rolling pin. You might also use one of these when you're playing with Play-Doh. I have a rolling pin just for Play-Doh. It's smaller, but I use that. So a rolling pin you'll use to roll out dough. I use mine most often when I'm making cinnamon rolls, but all it does is roll things so they're flat. If you don't have a rolling pin, you can use lots of different things to roll instead. If you have a glass bottle, you can use that as a rolling pin. Or you can also try to just press the dough out with your hand. It just might not be as smooth or even as you get with a rolling pin. After a rolling pin, I have a whisk. So I have 2. This is a smaller one and a bigger one. I also have an even smaller one that I use just to stir up cinnamon and sugar in a little cup when I'm making cinnamon rolls. So a whisk is used to mix together wet or dry ingredients. You can blend the ingredients together to mix it so it's completely even, or you can use it to incorporate air into your mixture. So when you whisk up eggs, it's not only is it mixing the eggs together, it's also putting air into it. So you can use a whisk for either of those. If you don't want to use a whisk, you can use, I have not opened it, but a hand mixer. I usually use my KitchenAid like stand mixer, but we also have a hand mixer that will do the same thing for you, but faster. So all you do for a hand mixer is you just insert the sticks. You gotta make sure they click in. And then you haven't clicked in, you just plug it in. And then it has some different settings. So a hand mixer is usually you just push up and then it mixes. And it changes paces. So if you're just trying to whisk it, if you want to go faster, mix it. When using a hand mixer and if you just have dry ingredients, do not put it up too fast because it will send the dry ingredients flying. Once you're done with your hand mixer, there's a button on top that you press and then the sticks pop out. So that is how you use a hand mixer. Okay, so the next tool I have for you is a spatula. So I actually call two different things spatulas. If I am doing this wrong, I'm sorry. But spatulas are just tools that you can use for lifting, flipping, spreading. So I use this spatula when baking. I use this more like when cooking to like stir and flip like hamburgers and stuff. But I use this when baking to get the cookies off the cookie sheet. And I use this to make sure after I've used the hand mixer or the whisk that everything is actually incorporated. So I will use my mixing bowl. Let me just grab it and demonstrate it. I'd use the mixing bowl and the spatula and I just run it around the side to make sure everything's there. And then if I'm like making a cake or something that has a runnier batter, I use it to clean up the sides and dump it in my pan. So that is what I use a spatula for. So this right here is a mixing bowl. They can come in all different sizes. If you use a stand mixer, usually there's already a bowl attached to you to use. You just use it to put all your ingredients in it and then mix it together. So we're actually going to use this to demonstrate using the next few tools. I only have a few more for you today. The first one are not measuring cups, that's the second one, are teaspoons and tablespoons. So this is used when you need just a little bit of something like if you're using cocoa powder, usually you just add a little bit, or baking soda, salt, just smaller things to make sure you're accurate with the measuring. Then the next thing are measuring cups. I have a cup, a half cup, a fourth of a cup, and a third of a cup, or the ones I have. Some people also have an eighth of a cup. I do not have one of those. But, so what we're going to do is to show how to use a measuring cup. To do that, we're going to get our bowl of flour and our jar of flour and our mixing cup bowl. So, to use a measuring cup, all you do, the correct way to measure is to fill your cup up extra full, and then you take a knife and you use the back side of the knife. I just use a butter knife, it's not sharp, and you make some divots in the flour or whatever you're using to measure. You just try to make it so it's smoother, and then you slide it off. So then you have a straight, even line, and you have what you're baking. And then you just dump it into your bowl. So the last tool I have to use today, you don't use it in all ingredients. I just think it's kind of fun. It's a sifter. And I use, you use it to like sift together flour, baking soda, salt, baking powder, all things that are commonly used in a sifter, but any powders, you use it to break up the particles and to make it smaller and to also mix it together in the mixture. So what you do is you take your cup of, mine is flour right now, and I have a fourth of a cup, and you dump it into your sifter, and then you just rotate it, and it breaks up all the clumps if there are any clumps, and it will mix together the different things if you have different things, and it works really fast. Okay, so I hope you learned something new today, and all these kitchen utensils we will be using in later videos this summer when we bake different items. So once again, if you want to leave down in the comments something you'd like to learn how to bake, I'll put that into consideration when I pick what we're gonna bake. I hope you learned something new today, and you have a great day. Bye guys!